Welcome to the video. This is the third and final in a series of 3 videos where I'm going over some of the community posts I've made over the past month where I asked you guys some different polls, some different questions about the hobby, about different topics related to the hobby, and then just to see what you guys are thinking about these different things. I think this has been really a fascinating thing for me, at least, to just see where you're thinking about these topics. Sometimes with some of the questions, the answers are exactly what I would have expected them to be, and sometimes it's completely not at all what I would have expected, which I like, and I enjoy being able to learn from you guys and hear your thoughts about things. I think as the person making the videos, you hear my thoughts on things all the time, but I like being able to have some back and forth in that as well, because it's not like I know everything, but sometimes YouTube is a one-way street. So I feel it's nice to be able to have some communication back the other way and have a bit more of a community kind of atmosphere. So if you enjoy this kind of thing, I encourage you to go and check out the community posts I'm making regularly. I might not do it every day like I did in September as an experiment, but I am going to be doing it pretty regularly still to just ask some questions. When I have some thought in my mind or some question that I'm wondering what other people think about, I'm going to post polls and things like that pretty regularly, so check it out. But for now, let's look at the last third of these different questions and let's see what you guys have thought about all of this, and I'll share my own thoughts as well. So let's get into this. If the 84 star Michael Jordan and the 86 Fleer Michael Jordan were equal in value, which one would you rather own? So this was interesting. 45% of the people said 84 star, 55% said 86 Fleer. So that's really fascinating to me. I'm assuming the 84 star, so I would actually be curious if I asked the same group of people which one they consider to be the true rookie card, if it would be a similar kind of number. Like, are people basically just choosing the one that they actually themselves personally consider to be the rookie card? Maybe that's the case. For myself, I would probably choose, to be honest, I would probably choose the 86 Fleer. Just because, and this was a tough one for me, because, I do appreciate that the 84 star was released when it was actually his rookie year. But I like the look of the 86 Fleer better. I have never actually touched the 84 star cards, any of them, in my own hands, but I've heard a lot about quality issues, the printing stock not being so good and things like that. The picture of Jordan on that picture is not nearly as nice. The 86 Fleer picture is just so cool. So if all things equal, if these cards were of equal value, or if they were both $0 and I could just have one, I would choose the 86 Fleer. Have you ever faced a moral gray area situation in the hobby where you just weren't sure what was the right thing to do? 21% of the people said yes, 29% said sort of, but minor things only, 48% said nope, not really, and 2% said I have no morals, so I have no dilemmas with them. So for me, I think sort of a minor things. I haven't faced any kind of like major moral decision with the hobby. I think generally if it's been relatively easy for me to figure out if this is a good action or not a good action. But I could see, I made a video. I put this post up when I made the video about moral gray areas in the hobby, because there's plenty of them where there's not necessarily like this is the right answer, this is the wrong answer, but more of like a what would you do? What's the framework that you use to make your decision? I think there's all kinds of spaces for that, and it's good, and I think it's good to talk about too. So if you have anything like that, share with me. I love making videos about that kind of thing. What is it that keeps you the most connected to the hobby? 57% said my card collection, 13% said the community, 21% said money-making opportunities, 4% said I'd be bored otherwise, and 5% said nothing really. I'm honestly not really connected to it at all. All right, so my card collection, good. That makes sense. For me too. I mean, that's the ultimate. All of these things, though, I have to say, the first 3 in that category, all of those are important for me. I mean, I guess since I'm the person, I don't have to choose one. I can talk about it since it's my video. But I would choose all 3 of those, because really, if it wasn't for the cards themselves and the cards that I like, I wouldn't really want to be involved in this space. If I didn't feel a connection to the community in some way, or to niches in the community, that would also have an influence on how much I would want to be involved with things. And if I didn't have the opportunities to make money, I probably wouldn't be involved on a regular basis. I'd probably just have a small PC that I'd just hold on to and stare at every once in a while. So for me, all 3 of those are important parts for my involvement. Not including eBay, what is the online card marketplace where you buy and or sell on most frequently. 53% said COM-C, 6% said My Slabs, 10% said Facebook and or Instagram, 6% said Golden, PWCC, Heritage and or Pristine, and 25% said just eBay. So 53% said COM-C. That's cool. That's what I would say. I think this is probably partially due to the nature of my channel as well. Just because I've made a lot of COM-C videos, and some of the COM-C videos have been popular. So I have a feeling a number of my viewers, my subscribers here, have found me in connection with COM-C kind of stuff. So that also makes sense. But that's my jam. I definitely like COM-C. What are your thoughts about the local card shops near you? 14% said amazing. It's my happy place. I go very, very regularly. 19% said I like it enough to go out of my way there sometimes. 27% says I enjoy going there, but I'm not like drawn to go there regularly. 15% said I tolerate it, but just because I love cards, it's not great. And 25% said I don't like going there at all, cringeworthy. To me, this does say something about, like, at least in my mind, about the way that card shops currently are organized, that only 14% find it to be their happy place. I would think if I was building a card shop, my idea would be to want to create like almost like a community base, like a place where people just want to come. They want to hang out. They want to, maybe there's like some arcade games there. Maybe there's like a place to like sit and chat and drink some coffee. And then there's cards, and it's part of like just a cool hangout space. That's what I would think would be good. Part of the reason I put this question up is because as I'm thinking about moving to the States in the next few months, I'm so eager to have a card shop near me again. I haven't gone to a card shop since I got back into the hobby again. Since I think when I was maybe in college, I visited a card shop a few times. Just as like nostalgia memories from when I was in middle school kind of things, but not really much. So I'm eager, super eager. And I kind of have a feeling that for me, even if it's kind of a cringeworthy place, I'll probably find myself there a lot anyway. I'm eager to see what it's going to be like in my hometown. And I know my hometown that I'm moving back to, Eugene, Oregon. There are a couple of card shops, just a couple though, maybe 3 in that region, and then maybe within an hour drive there's in a couple other nearby towns. I think there's another handful, maybe another 3 or something like that. If I go further north up to Portland, which is a couple hours away, but if I was to go up to Portland, I think Portland has quite a lot, but that's the only city in the state that has a lot. And it's the only city in the state that has a regular card show too, which is unfortunate. Might start one. I'm actually thinking about starting a card show in Eugene once I get back there and everything, and start making connections with some of the community there and some of the card shop owners in that general region. I might start a card show there, at least something small. I think I'd love to go to it, so I figure other people might too. What's your thoughts about flipping cards for quick profit? 32% said love it. That's the hobby game that gets my blood pumping. 25% said I look for opportunities sometimes, but not like constantly. 16% said I don't really look for opportunities, but sometimes they find me. 21% said I don't like flipping cards. I buy cards because I want them. And 6% said flippers are the scourge of the hobby. Angry face emoji. Pretty even among those first 4. I'm glad not too many people think they're the scourge of the hobby. I personally think flipping is just a natural part of the hobby ecosystem. Now, when I say flip, some people, when they hear the word flippers, I think they're thinking of the price gougers, the scalpers, who at the time when product would sell out, the wax would sell out super fast, that people would just buy up all of it and then up the price super high and sell it. I think that's a totally different thing. Flipping in my mind is more like you find arbitrage opportunities. You find a card that in a budget box for $1 that you can sell on eBay for $5. You find, a card that's being sold for too cheap, some, that you think you can resell for higher. To me, that's just part of a natural ecosystem. And it's an enjoyable thing. I love that aspect of the hobby myself. I think it's like the flowing blood movement of the hobby in many ways. So I think it's a good thing. So I would probably put myself in the first or the second category. I love it. I personally think it's great. A lot of my best videos on my channel are probably related to some of the flips I've made on COM-C too. So I love it. I think it's great fun, and I don't see anything wrong with finding arbitrage opportunities. Do you buy and sell cards from certain sports more often during certain times of the year, like when the season is on, or are you not so seasonal like that? So 27% said they're pretty seasonal, 20% said I do some sports seasonally and other sports are more constant, and 52% said my patterns stay pretty much the same year round. At first I was going to say I think my patterns stay pretty similar around, but I think actually I'm seasonal, but opposite of the normal seasonal. With basketball, I think it's year round. I'm always looking at basketball. I'm interested in basketball more. With baseball and football, I think it's seasonal, but not when the season is on. It's when the season is off, when I think there's more opportunities, and I'm not, I'm not as connected I don't watch baseball and football games much. I watch basketball games regularly. When it comes to basketball, during the season, I am thinking about it more because I'm watching videos about this and that analysis of this and that team or player or whatever. Like I exist in the realm of the NBA quite often. I really enjoy it. I really like the league. And with basketball, it's year round. I think maybe there's a little bit more seasonality with my basketball, just in the sense that more people are buying, so there might be a little bit more movement with my inventory, which means I might have a little bit more to work with, because when I'm selling more, it means I have more money to do other things with. So I might be a little bit seasonal just in that sense, because I have more income coming in. Otherwise, not so much. I just like basketball. What are your thoughts about the community of sports card collectors? 8% said love it, made great friends and have deep connections. 24% said, I like it pretty well, have pretty solid relationships in it. 43% said, it's just okay, mostly are just shallow or transactional relationships. 6% said, not so good really, I've got a couple friends, but most are weird. And 20% said, it's a toxic space, bunch of hooligans and hats. It seems like a lot of people are saying it's shallow transactional relationships, which I could see that. I could see how that's the sense. I mean, for me, like, I think part of the reason I like building this YouTube channel is because I feel I can make some connections with a lot of you guys who come back here regularly and are commenting regularly. And I know it's kind of, maybe there's a certain shallowness to that form of like just a sentence or two that we're sharing every once in a while, but there's still a certain kind of community feel within that, which I really like, and it's one of the things that keeps me motivated to continuing doing these kinds of YouTube channel, these YouTube videos. But I do see how a lot of the nature of the relationships in the hobby is transactional. You go to a card show and 90% of your interaction with people is just negotiating a price or asking questions about a card or something like that. But I think there's potential, and the reason I put this question up is because I actually made a video about this topic later, where I actually think there's so much potential in the space of sports cards for strong community building, because there's not a lot of spaces in modern society where you can make connections with a diversity of people with different kinds of experiences and backgrounds. Generally, people nowadays, they make friends that they made, when they were younger, when they were in college, when they were in high school, and then they have a few of those that maybe they keep in close contact with, or maybe at work they have a couple of like work friends that they hang out with, or something like that. But there's very few contexts in modern US society where you can make connections with random people, with a variety of people, and sports cards has that opportunity, but with a context where there's a unifying element, a piece that you can build a relationship and a friendship from. Which you don't have in very many contexts. In a workspace, you might, because you have the shared experience of work. Maybe in a neighborhood, you have the shared experience in the neighborhood, although that's rare nowadays in modern society. But in sports cards, I feel like there's a potential. One of the reasons I asked this question is one of the reasons I've been thinking about this is, my experience and my background in education is more about community building than it is classroom teaching, actually. Even within the schools that I've worked at, usually I'm working more at the, like, I guess you could say the cultural level, like how to build a community among the teaching staff so that there could be shared learning experiences and shared best practices and all this kind of stuff. That's been my career space, has been more involved with that aspect, creating a space for mutual learning and mutual relationship building and community building. And within sports cards, as I got back into it, it's also, my mind has been more and more, especially as I talk to certain people, like, I don't know if you saw my live stream with Peter Pac-Man, and other people who have a similar kind of mindset when it comes to the potential of community building and the potential of cards as a conduit. I remember the sports card collector with who's, I can't remember how you spell his Instagram name, but he talked about this too. He talked about sports cards as conduits of change, as conduits of connection, conduits of community. And I really like that idea, because I do feel like they can be a catalyst for bringing people together and for having a jumping off point of relationship building, which for adults in modern society doesn't happen. When you're a kid, you make friends, you meet somebody new, you have a new class, a new student comes into your school, like you just naturally build friendships with people. It's just part of life. And then when you get to be an adult, like, why does that go away? Like, why suddenly are you not building friendships and you're just lasting with the ones that were from when you're a kid? I feel like that's not how it needs to be. It's not even a really healthy way for it to be. So I like the idea of the community of sports cards having the potential to be something that builds these deeper connections. And it's something that I feel like as a YouTube content creator, I want to nurture, and as somebody who's going to be going to card shows and things, I want to nurture that. I feel like it's something that is important. I find it to be important. If all of the following cards were worth $0, which one would you still most want to have? 21% said the 52 Topps Mickey Mantle. 5% said the 48 Leaf Jackie Robinson. 22% said the T206 Honus Wagner. 38% said the 1986 Michael Jordan Fleer, and 13% said the 1933 Gaudy Babe Ruth. When I really reflected on this question later, I probably should have chosen a few different cards here, because really I think part of the reason the Jordan has so many is because a lot of people watching my channel are basketball collectors, and he's the only basketball collector here, and the other 4 are baseball. So if you're not so interested in baseball, you probably would have just chosen him by default. So I probably should have thought about the different questions, the different choices here. But these were kind of cards that I were thinking of like in a more iconic way, that sometimes some of the more valuable cards. For myself, if I was to choose one of these, actually, the reason I threw in the 48 Leaf Jackie Robinson is because that would actually be the one I'd most want if they were all worth $0, if it was just a card that I wanted because I really want the card. But yeah, I really like the 1948 Leaf Jackie Robinson card. I just think it looks so cool. Somebody in the comments did mention a different Jackie Robinson card that they would have put up there. It was the 56 Topps, was it, I believe? Yeah, the 56 Topps. Somebody said that was their choice if they could choose a different one, and that one's pretty cool too. Before the rising popularity of football and basketball, the second most popular sport in the US had previously been boxing. Do you think vintage boxing cards, like the 1948 Leaf set, will someday become considered more iconic and important as vintage sports cards? 22% said yes, someday I think they will. 72% said no, boxing is unlikely to ever be so popular again. And 6% said, what do you mean? They already are super iconic vintage cards. I probably would be in the 72%, but I do think that some of the vintage boxing cards are fascinating, and some of the stories in the boxing world are absolutely fascinating. Just because it was such a major sport, it was a cultural thing. It was more integrated racially than other sports in the early part of the 1900s. The stories of Jack Johnson and Joe Louis I've talked about in previous videos before in a previous video, and I just find their stories to be so fascinating. That doesn't necessarily mean I think they're going to have the depth of collector base that the major sports ever will have, but I do think it's something that shouldn't be overlooked because the stories there. I don't like boxing as a sport very much. I just like the history of it. What would you do if you had a stack of modern sports cards that you wanted to eventually sell, that sell raw for like $20 a piece, let's say, that were graded by some random unknown grading company? 31% of you said you'd keep them in that random slab and just sell them like that. 31% said you'd crack the slab and sell them raw, and 38% said you'd crack the slab and resubmit to a reputable grading company. I wouldn't do the last one myself. I wouldn't if it's a raw card that sells for $20, I'm not going to send that to a grading company. I feel like maybe it's because I've never graded yet, but as I'm thinking about grading, I don't want to send cards that low. Maybe there's a couple that I would if their pop counts are really low and their PSA 9 price, even if it was a PSA 9, it would still make me a profit over the raw. Maybe I would consider it. But I kind of feel like when I'm looking at a card and I get a card and I'm thinking, okay, is this going to be something I'm going to grade or not? The first thing before I look at its condition, I'd be like, okay, this is a $20 card, probably not. $50 card, maybe. $100 card, likely. But then of course then you want to look, the surface and the corners, the edges, all those kinds of things, and the centering, and get a sense of if it's going to grade well. Of course you don't want to send it in if it's not going to grade well. But a $20 raw card, 98% of the time, I'm probably not going to think of it as a candidate for grading. All right, and that is up to date. So that is all of them we're going to have for this video. This was fun. I think I'm going to start doing this. I don't know if I'm going to do it every single day from here on out, but I'm going to start doing these community posts a little bit more frequently, and then having some videos like this where we can chat about what everybody's saying. I think the community posts are fun, and it's another space. Like I was saying before, I think there's a potential in the YouTube space for building community and having nice conversations and things. And so I'd like to use my community space as a way to do that. So if you guys, do find yourself going over to the community tab, finding out what kind of things are going on in here, I encourage you to share your thoughts, not just answering the polls, but sharing stuff down below. I think it's nice to have interesting topics of conversation with each other about these different things, kind of as a community. To engage in these conversations is nice. So I encourage you to go check those out. But for now, that's it for this video. Peace.